Opportunities are there. Don't be afraid to take them. And I think a lot of those types of things that push you outside your comfort zone are what actually make you in the future. And it's about having that ability to push yourself out of your comfort zone, learn from that, and don't regress back. So very much any opportunities that come your way, get involved, take those. And it helps you just build teamwork and supporting others, and maybe how you influence and negotiate. Things that you maybe at 16 don't realise what you're actually doing, but they're really important in your future career.
Welcome to Workplus, the podcast that shines a light on the people doing good work across Northern Ireland. I'm your host, Richard Kirk, founder of Workplus. I've spent years working with employers, schools, colleges and universities, helping young people and career changers to make better informed career decisions. Each week, I sit down with real people doing real jobs to explore how they got there, what they've learned, and why their work matters. If you're a parent, teacher, carer, or just curious about what good work looks like today, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Paula, so pleased to have you in the studio today. Thanks for joining us.
No, thank you very much, Richard.
We love having conversations on the podcast about career journeys, but we want to take you right back to your school days. Like, what were the subjects that you loved doing at school?
Yeah, no, it's interesting to reflect back. It is quite a while ago from being in school, but you know, when you sort of pose that question and you think back, it was very much the practical type subjects. You know, even through primary education into secondary education, it was very much around like ICT or computer studies, as it would have been called at that particular time. Biology, I absolutely loved biology. Did not like physics and chemistry because it was too much of a mathematical background. Certainly around a lot of sports as well. I mean, that sort of whole area of sports was coming much more into education, but was involved very heavily in a lot of the team sports during school as well. So English was probably an area that I enjoyed because I enjoy reading. But certainly those more deeper mathematical type subjects were not my forte at all. Just preferred that more practical type program.
You loved team sports, so you like being part of a team then?
I did. I was very strong with hockey throughout my time at Carrick Grammar School and athletics. Not that I could do either of those now, Richard, to be perfectly honest. But yes, I played hockey for many, many years, and even after leaving school, continued to play hockey. So enjoyed that sort of team sport and being with people and that sort of whole supportive and coaching type environment.
Well, that's good. That's good. And did you do formal work experience when you were at school? Did you have a part-time job? Tell us a bit about those experiences you had outside of the classroom.
Yeah, I mean, again, thinking back, careers unfortunately wasn't a big focus at my time during school. I think it was one of these situations where a teacher had it as an add-on and there was occasional discussions, you know, maybe around you were trying to choose some of your subjects at different stages. But, you know, I was lucky enough to have a part-time job in a local newsagents from I was 13 actually. So worked there right through until I was 18 at weekends and after different sports activities. So, you know, that could be a very challenging environment on the basis of dealing with customers and you know, what was coming if things weren't going right for them on that particular day in relation to whether they'd got the right newspaper or the right magazine or whatever that might be. The other piece that I was lucky enough to do was I had a part-time role in a care home, which was part of my Duke of Edinburgh at the time. You had to do a voluntary service. So again, another environment of working with people and supporting and caring for people. And I continued that for quite a long time, even after having completed my Duke of Edinburgh award, because I did really enjoy it. You know, going in and just being with the people in the home and talking and helping and supporting them in any way that I could.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So you did that at that stage. You had some work experience. But what were you think? You maybe didn't get a lot of careers advice at school, but so how did you end up making that step beyond school then? What did you do after you'd finished at Carrick Grammar? Yeah,
like I went back to school in lower sixth, as it was called, then because, you know, I knew I needed to do something. I wasn't going to be sitting at home and doing nothing. So I'd gone back into the education system at that time, but looking outside to see what I possibly wanted to do. So I suppose a lot of parental support and influence around considering what those careers might be. So my mum was a school teacher and had lots of school teacher friends in our family. I also had a number of connections within the police service at that particular time and social work as well. So through a lot of family, friends, those sorts of the roles, I suppose that I was thinking at that time that I would want to work towards. But again, very much that people focus piece. So yeah, that teaching, social work, those types of roles. But meantime, I wanted to be working. But I also recognise the importance of continuing with education alongside that. And when an opportunity arose to join NIE Networks as an apprentice, I took it.
Yeah. Well, so you started as an apprentice at NIE. What was the job that you were doing back then?
So I'd been lucky enough to secure a job in the Northern Ireland Civil Service initially. And then I met a friend at college, because part of that programme was you went to college, and she was working for NIE Networks. So it was a clerical apprenticeship programme. So it was a 2-year programme where you went into the training school, and there was 12 people when each intake, I suppose, into the organisation. And it was very much around visiting different parts of the business. So my role started off in credit control, which again then was dealing with customers, albeit on the phone. And that transitioned then into, there was like a customer-facing desk in the old Shop Electrics many years ago that lots of people will remember. And that's where people come in and ask for your help in relation to how you could support them if they were struggling maybe with, paying their electricity bills at that particular time. So at that stage then, you had to look for an opportunity in the business and secure a role. So I'd applied and secured a role within that sort of credit control, customer service environment for the first couple of years.
Mm-hmm. So you dealing with members of the public then, and was that a job that you enjoyed? It sounds like from your background that you did enjoy that, but was it challenging as well?
No, so yes, any of those roles can be challenging in a customer service environment, but equally those individuals, some of them were coming from very difficult positions, of hardship. So you were trying to support them as much as you could. And there was other people who were coming in and were very generous and very authentic. It's trying to strike that balance, I suppose, in relation to how you would deal with those individuals. And for me, it always, no matter who you were facing into, you give them respect, and that's a very really important part, I suppose, of anything that you do in my mind is just respecting everybody equally.
Yeah. And
trying to help and support them as best you could.
Yeah. So what's you're now heading up the human resources function, and what did the journey look like from becoming an admin apprentice to that role that you're in now?
Yeah, and NIE Networks has supported my career and my development over almost 40 years now, which is hard to believe when you say it out loud. So right from that apprenticeship piece, very much encouraging and supporting you through your development, your on-job training, mentoring by someone in the organisation, and then following an academic route as well. So because I'd already done some studies, whenever I started the apprenticeship programme, it was very much then looking at that HND type level. And I went in the business studies space. Mm-hmm. And then after completing the business studies HND, moved on to the degree, because I sort of thought at that stage, well, why wouldn't you? Because you'd already completed an element of it, which transferred into the next level. And the organisation were supporting that. So it was during that actually that the HR piece came out very strong to me when I took those electives in the final year of my degree. And then went on to do the postgrad in HR again, supported by the business. So very much setting myself up at that time. I wasn't working in HR in the organisation. I had worked through into our admin services, which had some payroll elements to it. And more latterly, before moving into HR, had worked as a claims administration manager. So that was setting up in the organisation a process to recover money for damage to our equipment, basically, if people were digging in the streets. And I loved that particular role. Sort of represented NIE Networks in small claims court, and it was a really challenging role, but enjoyable. And then the opportunity to move to the HR team came along, and I took it. And here we are 22 years later, and really have worked through from the HR advisory position into an HR business partner, into the senior business partner role, and then into head of HR.
Yeah. So HR, human resources, maybe a phrase that maybe some of our listeners might not be familiar with. What does it actually look like to work in HR then? What are the sorts of things that you're involved in?
Yeah, it's a very dynamic part of the business to work in. You have a very wide breadth of responsibilities, and ultimately it's all things people. I think that's the easiest way to describe it. So, from anyone joins your organisation, it's very much about that recruitment. It's about onboarding them into the business. And then once they're in the business, it's really about looking after them.
Yeah.
Very much about looking at their development, identifying talent, making sure there's career pathways to support them. A lot of what we do then as well is around that employee engagement, diversity and inclusion. So that would all sit within that human resources umbrella. And, we've worked very hard as a team, as an organisation, to recently have been awarded IIP Platinum across all 3 Investors in People's accreditation, which, has been a phenomenal recognition of the business and a lot of how that's driven through HR. And, we're really, really pleased to have achieved that.
That's good. So, are there many organisations that have that level of accreditation? Or?
At this point in time, we're the only organisation in the UK to have platinum across all three. There are other organisations have the 3 accreditations, but not at platinum level. So that certainly, and we invest in apprentices and we invest in wellbeing. We achieved platinum on the first go.
Fantastic.
Which was really good.
That's great. So you're getting to create an environment where people can thrive within the organisation. You mentioned some of the job roles there, and when some people think of NIE, they might think of, it's about being on the side of a road, laying a cable, maybe fixing it during a storm. Can you maybe tell us a bit about what are some of the other job roles that exist at NIE?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, a fellow HR colleague outside of our business, at one stage I'd met him at a careers fair, and I was quite surprised to see him there because of the organisation that he worked within. But he had said to me, but there's a whole other organisation sits behind that. And NIE Networks are no different. As you say, people see the engineers, they see the jointers or the lines persons, but there is a whole business that sits behind that, of which HR would be one of them. But we have a very strong IT department as well. We have very strong procurement. We have a very strong finance, very strong environment and sustainability. So there's so many other careers even sit behind what the people would see out on in location or out in sites. So it is very much about us all supporting the rest of our organisation. I mean, over half of the organisation would be on-site workers, but the rest of the organisation sits behind that and supports everything that they do.
Brilliant. It sounds like you mentioned about back in school, you didn't really like physics, chemistry, maths, but you found your way in the organisation. You're using all those skills and the knowledge that you've gained. And yet there are other roles there that for people who maybe are more mathematically minded or science minded. Yeah. Is that right? There's a nice mix there.
No, absolutely. I mean, I suppose our main focus would be STEM subjects, for young people coming through our apprenticeship programs or coming through our graduate programs. And we need the engineers of the future or the jointers or line persons of the future, because that's the bread and butter of the organisation. But, there's more beyond the STEM. As I've said, we have finance, we have IT, we have human resources, we have procurement. So there's lots of opportunities for careers in a business size of our organisation as well.
Yeah. And we were chatting before we started to record, just every conversation might have a little bit of AI in it right now, but just thinking about the new skills that are needed for the people that you're helping to support within NIE. Can you tell us a bit about what that looks like and where you see the future going for the electricity network and the people that need to support that?
Yeah, and there's no doubt. I mean, there's a lot of skills that we probably don't even know that exist yet that are needed as part of sort of the whole green skills going forward. And I think it's much broader than what people might think in relation to how you can support or move into that space of green skills.
Yeah. So that's all about trying to reduce the amount of carbon that the network uses, is that right?
Exactly. So it's really achieving net zero. And there's a lot of work that we're doing around the whole network rebuild to facilitate that into the future. We're very much an enabler for that as to what needs to happen in the wider Northern Ireland economy. But I think, there's a lot around AI will be really helpful in supporting a lot of people. It's not necessarily going to replace roles. And I think there's that fear factor at this point in time. And I think it's very much about trying to reposition it, that it can help you do your job. It can make you more effective. But ultimately, you still need a human being at the end of many of the roles that we would have as an organisation, because it is very much about, as you mentioned, out in storms or fixing faults. Those are still going to be hand skill tasks that need to be done and need that strong technical knowledge and background to do that. But I think there's a piece around AI and data. I mean, we're all hungry for data. So when we get that data, it's then having the ability to analyse that data, to problem solve, to look at innovative ways of maybe using that data to do something better. So those are the sorts of skills which are very much transferable across lots of the roles.
Brilliant. I was chatting to one of your colleagues who works in a cyber security role within NIE, and it struck me that I never thought of that being something that you would need within NIE, but you're clearly trying to protect the network as well from cyber attacks as well.
Yeah, I mean, you have the network. I mean, that's obviously a huge part of our business, and our systems are very secure in relation to ensuring that nobody can access them because of the types of information that would be there. But you've also all your customer data. We're dealing with 900,000 customers. we will have their data, so we have to protect that data. You have all your employee data. So I mean, that cybersecurity piece is a very big growing area, and we've seen recently in many instances where organisations have come under attack, I suppose, from that, and the significant effect that can have. You know, at the end of the day, we're providing electricity to people, and you know, we want to be 100% reliable in providing that. So it's important that we keep our networks secure.
Great. Well, our listeners include parents, teachers, young people maybe thinking about careers. What would you say to your 16-year-old self, Paula, if you could do that today?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, I mean, I mentioned Duke of Edinburgh earlier, for example. Like, people that would know me now would not believe that I spent 3 days in the mornings in a tent. You know, so it's very much about opportunities are there. You know, don't be afraid to take them. And I think a lot of those types of things that push you outside your comfort zone are what actually make you in the future. You know, and it's about having that ability to push yourself out of your comfort zone, learn from that, and don't regress back. You know, so very much any opportunities that come your way, get involved, take those. And it helps you just build, you know, teamwork and supporting others, and maybe how you influence and negotiate. Things that you maybe at 16 don't realise what you're actually doing, but they're really important in your, you know, in your future career.
Brilliant. Final question, which we ask all our guests, is simply, what's so good about work?
What's so good about work? Well, in my case, people. I mean, I should be saying that anyway from a human resources perspective, but I think it's important to have something to get up every day to do, and something to do that you enjoy, and something that gives you structure and focus to your day. The team that you work with, you know, you obviously build lots of professional relationships, but lots of personal relationships come from your workplace as well. And then it really is about that support that you have for each other. I mean, it's really an extension of your family. So no, absolutely. I think it's an important part of everybody's life, is your work life.
Great. Well, Paula, thank you so much for your time today. It's been great to hear a little more about your career journey and your story, and we look forward to seeing what you do in the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Workplus. If today's story gave you fresh perspective or helped you rethink what's possible, leave us a review on your favourite podcast platform, or hit like and subscribe. It really does make a big difference. For more stories, resources, and tools to help guide the next generation, visit workplus.app. Until next time.